Removing the wallpaper can bring a room like this out of the dark ages. And you might be surprised to find that going from wallpapered walls to textured walls is so simple you can do it yourself. It's a good idea to put down drop cloths to protect your flooring before you begin taking down your wallpaper. And you could save yourself some money if you look in your closets and have some old bed sheets you could use. I'm mixing a wallpaper stripper with 2 gallons of warm water, and we're going to spray this on our wallpaper to help loosen the wallpaper. But again, you can save yourself some money if you want to just mix equal parts of white vinegar and hot water. I'm using a scoring tool on this wallpaper to poke holes through it, and what that's doing, it's going to allow the stripper to seep through to the wallpaper glue so that it loosens it and the wallpaper pulls off easier. We're going to go ahead and score this wall from floor to ceiling, but you can also use a fork or sandpaper if you like. This tool though is pretty inexpensive, plus it's fun to use, and it'll get your job done a whole lot faster. We're going to go ahead and remove the wallpaper off this one wall, but later I'll show you a shortcut to texturing. If your wallpaper is well adhesed, we can go ahead and apply texture right over that. If you're working with a chemical agent, it's a good idea to wear safety goggles. And to be even safer, you may want to go ahead and turn off the circuit breaker for the room you're working in. You don't want to remove any of your electrical plates, but go ahead and tape over them with tape, and this will keep the water from seeping in. The method that we've chosen to remove this wallpaper is the more traditional one, but there are other ways you can remove wallpaper. You can always steam it, but that requires that you scrape it at the same time. So essentially it's the same time and effort. And you need to go to the expense of renting a steamer. The newer wallpapers usually don't require that you use water or chemicals. They will peel off dry. Now this wallpaper is pretty old, so that's why we're using this method. And also, the experts recommend that on the older wallpapers, go ahead and spray it twice and give it a good 30 minutes to soak in, and you'll find that the chemical will do most of the work for you. After you've let your wall soak for a good half hour, you can go ahead and start peeling it off. Now, if you find that there's another layer of wallpaper underneath like this one, hopefully it will peel right off with your first layer, but if it doesn't, you may need to go ahead and score it again and respray it and let it soak again before you can try to get it off. Or you can use a scraper if you need to. And it looks like we are going to probably have to repeat the steps of scoring it and respraying the chemical. This is the part of the process that's the most time-consuming, especially since it had the second layer of wallpaper. You might have to do a lot more scraping here, so you just need some patience. But when you're finished, it'll be well worth your effort. You need to let your wall dry for about an hour after you've removed the old wallpaper. Then you need to sand it to get rid of any rough spots. And as you can see, this wall has quite a few rough spots, but that's because we did so much scraping to get the second layer of wallpaper off. Once you've sanded your wall pretty well, if you still have a few rough spots, don't worry about that because the sealer and the texture will cover it completely. Once you've finished sanding your wall, now it's time to go ahead and put your sealer on. And you can see how this is going to cover your rougher areas just fine. If you've never textured before, you can practice on a scrap wallboard or a piece of cardboard while you're letting your sealer dry. And you'll want to use a textured roller like this one. And this came in a kit with these other 2 brushes. These smaller ones you can use in hard to reach areas and also in the corners. When you're texturing, just try to make sure that you get the texture evenly on your brush so that it's spread evenly onto your wall. A little bit on here. And then just practice so you get a good feel for the brush. Put some more on there. When you start texturing your wall, if you'll start out with a thin coat of texture, you may find that's all you'll want. But you can always add more texture if you want it thicker. And you can create a variety of patterns by using a trowel, a putty knife, a brush or a sponge or whatever. You'll just need to allow at least 24 hours of drying time. And then sometimes it may take a week depending on how thick your texture is. Also, if you'll use a texture pre-mixed with primer like we are, this will save you a step before you paint. And that's it. In no time at all, we can give this old room a new look. Of course, a coat of paint will add character once we decide on a color.